Hello guys, back for week 3 of the tipping competition. It was a very good week for our tipsters last week with a 5 out of 6 picking a winner. This is how the table looks. We've got Jack Dawling heading the field with Ryan nipping at his heels. Jake has managed to put himself in contention with a winning nap last week, whilst the others still sit at a minus. There's plenty of time for this leaderboard to have a shake-up. Let's get into the bets. Okay, so this was the part where Jack went into detail about the horses that he selected, but unfortunately had a slight little technical glitch with the sound and the video, and it was not rendering out properly. So I'm going to speak over this part. Jack's nap is Sissoko in the Vertum Futurity, the 315 at Doncaster, who's looking to back up an impressive 6-length win last time out. And his next best is coming from the 130 at Doncaster, and that's Way to Win, who Jack said is an absolute mudlark and is going to love the conditions. I'm really sorry to do that, Jack, but yeah, couldn't get the video out any other way. Let's move on to the other selections.
Good evening. Another week and another couple of bets. We had a winner last week with the next best coming in, returning 9-2. So we're still in there with 3 weeks to go of the competition. And despite all the excitement of Cheltenham, my first bet is going to be at Kelso, and that's going to be my nap. And it's going to be a 2-point win on Empire de Maulde in the Edinburgh Ginge chase. Now this horse, he's very versatile. He's still only 7. He's got plenty of improvement in him. But last time out, I gave him no chance when running over 2 miles, and he finished just 4.5 lengths behind El Baracho. That form's been franked since, and I think that would probably have been a prep for this, where he's going over like a more of a marathon distance. He's a proved stayer. He finished behind Dress for Success at Cartmel back in the summer. That horse has gone on to progress even more from there. So that form has been franked also. He's going to be carrying, I think, about 10 stone 3 here. And I'm hoping because of the yard he's in with James Stewart, he's going to be a bit of a price. There's familiar names in this race with Dingo Dollar and the like, so they'll probably see the money, and I'm hoping he can return a good price for us. So he's going to be the 2-point nap, and I am going to have a bet at Cheltenham. There's going to be a 1-point win bet in the 330, and that's going to be before midnight for Sam Thomas. Now Sam Thomas doesn't send many to Cheltenham. I think he's only sent 2 here in the previous couple of years, and he's got some really nice types at the moment, and he gets them to jump really well. And last time out, I think before midnight, probably set a career best run when running over 2 miles at Chepstow. I think that was back in April now, so he's coming here fresh. And I think the way Sam Thomas's have come out and they've all been jumping exceptionally well, I think he's going to be a price, and he's going to be a good bet as well. I think a lot of these are going to want the softer ground. He's going to like it good to soft. So I think he's going to be under the radar for this race. So it's a 2-point win, Empire de Maulde at Kelso, and in the 330 at Cheltenham, a 1-point win on before midnight. Good luck.
Hello guys, Jake Price here, and my first selection for week 3 comes in the 220 at Cheltenham, and that's Kerry Lee's Storm Control. Now Kerry Lee's had 3 runners in the month of October so far, and all of them have won, so she's in great form, and Storm Control looks really nicely handicapped based on his Cheltenham form last season. So he started his season with a win in the Amateur Riders race over this exact same course and distance, but it was in November, at the November meeting rather than the October meeting. But he won that just jumping out in front. No one got near him until right near the end. He won that off a mark of 131. He then returned to Cheltenham in December at the December meeting, and he ran in the grade 3 handicap chase over 3 mile 2 furlongs. And this time, again, he set his stall out, went out in front, jumped them silly, and he looked like he was going to win easily up the run-in. But then he really idled badly. And then one of the other horses came to him though. He went on again and won off a mark of 137. So that was a really good effort. They took him to the Classic Chase next, and he didn't stay the 3 mile 5 furlong trip, so you can kind of just put a line through that really. And then he came back to Cheltenham for the Kim Muir in March for the festival, and he was running off a mark of 142 that day, which I think is probably just a little bit beyond him, but he ran a great race. He was still leading up until the second last fence, and then he just tired a bit over that 3 mile 2 furlong trip. But it was that was a much more competitive race than this. You had Mount Ida coming from space to win it. So yeah, I think that was a nice effort to finish in 5th place. He ran in the Topham on his latest start, and he jumped really well. He got hampered at the final flight. That was over 2.5 miles. That's really not going to see the best of him. But he's now back down to that mark of 137, which he won off at Cheltenham in December. So he looks like a really well handicapped horse. I think he'll bounce out in front, and he's my first selection. My second selection this week comes in the 330 at Cheltenham, which is the 2 mile handicap chase. And the horse I like here is Sam Thomas's Before Midnight. Now, Before Midnight was running over trips of 2.5 miles last season. He was running well in defeat. He finished third behind Morning Vicar at Newbury, and he finished second behind Alnadam at Sundown. And they were two really good efforts. He needs a bit of a better ground though, so they ran him in a jumpers bumper in February, where he won, quite nicely. But, I don't really rate the form of jumpers bumpers at all, but at least he showed he could win a race. But interestingly, Connections then decided to run him over 2 miles at Chepstow in April, and he just completely relished that trip. He was tracking the leaders, he jumped really nicely, and went on and won by 3/4 length back to Court Royale, who's a decent horse. But more significantly, back in fourth, he had Vado Fort. Now, Vado Fort is a horse that I thought would be really interesting because he's moved to Gordon Elliott, and he was actually entered in this race, and he was supposed to be running off a mark of 145. So that having bolted up last time on his first start in Ireland, the handicapper took a dim view on that. So that looks like a nice horse that's been turned inside out. So if before midnight you mark up his performance really. He gets to run off a mark of 136 here, which I don't think is beyond him considering how unexposed he is over 2 miles. And the best thing is he only carries 10 stone 3 because Sky Pirate is in here. He's running off a mark of 159. But if he can win off that, then he's an incredible horse and he's up to champion chase standard, which I don't think he is. And I think it's a massive effort, a massive ask on his first start of the season. So my selection is Before Midnight.
All right, all. Managed to get back onto the winner's trail last week with Pictory over in Chepstow. Was a nice enough winner at 11-4, and we were also a little bit unlucky with the Nap Cormier just finishing out of the frame in the Welsh Champion Hurdle. We go again this week, starting off with our Nap, which is over in Galway in the 3:37 race, a 2 mile 5 furlong handicap hurdle, and it's Coventry for Paul Nolan and Brian Cooper. I think the step up to 2 mile 5 should suit this horse very well. He's been a little bit of a safe jumper over 2 miles, which has cost him in races so far, even though he ran pretty nicely in his last hurdle start in the Lartigue hurdle at Listowel. Moving on to the next best, it comes in the Conditional Jocks handicap hurdle at Cheltenham, the first race on the card at Cheltenham, the 145, and it is Small Bad Bob for Paul Henderson and Mitch Bastian, one of the best conditionals in the game. This horse actually used to be trained by Paul Nolan as well, but he's gone over to Paul Henderson and has done pretty well, including winning his last 2 starts. He might still be a little bit ahead of the handicapper, and he's got one of the best conditionals in the game riding him. He's around 10-1 currently. He's 0.5 each way to go with Coventry over in Galway, who's 1 point each way, and fingers crossed we land a big prize winner.
Hi guys, Dan here for week 3 of the Twitter tournament. Great to finally get a winner on the board last week with 147. Shame about the 92 SB after he opened at very juicy double figure odds. I know Ryan is also feeling my pain with that one, but we move on to week 3 and we move to Cheltenham. It's finally great to have it back, and the Nap is going to come in the Temps qualifier, which sounds quite insane saying out loud, but I'm going to go with Born Patriot, one of the Irish Raiders. He's fairly closely matched with Tully Beg based on their recent form together. He was 9 lengths behind the current market leader back then, but Born Patriot was actually the favourite for that race, and it was his first race for over 4 months, so he's likely to come on for it. He's still very unexposed, and this is only going to be his second run in the handicap, which was his first one he was actually sent off favourite for. And it was also probably his best run to date. He was staying on third behind a world handicapped horse over 2 mile 6. And this horse looks a real galloper. I think he'll really appreciate the 3 miles at Cheltenham. And Peter Fahey has enjoyed some recent success, bringing horses over big handicaps. Might we look at Belfast Banter in the county at the festival? So he knows what he's doing. He's not bringing over here just for a jolly. I think he should be going close in this. It'd be disappointing if he's not in the frame. And for the next best, a bit of a rogue one to try and claw back the deficit. I'm going to go with the Hollow Ginge in the 220. Now, he failed to complete in 4 of his 5 starts last season, but he's dropped to £3 below his last winning mark, and he has consistently run well fresh, with his form figures on seasonal reappearance reading 1-2-1U. Well, you could actually argue that his 4th in the Ladbroke Trophy last season for a mark of 144 was also a run fresh, because his run actually before that he unseated at the first, so didn't really get much of an outing. As with any Nigel Twiston-Davies horse this season, it's very much worth noting that the Yard are in much better form than they were last season. And he actually did shape encouragingly in the Scottish National on his last start. He actually came there looking a decent threat about 5 out before the 4 mile trip on soft gown probably just found him out. The cheek pieces go back on here. He has won in cheek pieces before, and his 4th in Ladbroke Trophy came at the application of a visor for the first time, so perhaps the changing a headgear can spark him back to life, and an extended 3 miles on better ground could be close to his ideal conditions. So if he's going to put a good run together, these are the conditions that he's going to do so, and hopefully he'll return at a decent price.
Steve Ryder here, my week 3 selections. I know most of the lads will be going to Cheltenham for their selections on Saturday, but I found that jumps card really tricky. I'll be concentrating on the flat this weekend. My nap and 2-point win selection comes in the 350 at Doncaster, and it's gold medal for David Egan and Richard Hughes. Flaming Rib is currently a short price favourite for this race, but I feel is flattered by a rating of 108. He got the run of the race last time at Chester when making all in a handicap, and I think he's making the market to take him on at around 6-4. I urge all of you to go back and watch Gold Medal's debut win at Wolverhampton and tell me that he isn't at least a listed performer. He's a big boy, wouldn't have been suited by the tight turns at Wolverhampton on the all-weather, but when he found his big stride entering the straight, he devoured the ground and powered clear by nearly 3 lengths. He'll love the straight 6 furlongs at Doncaster, and I think he'll prove hard to beat. My next best is a 1-point win selection, comes in the 5:10 at Leopardstown. It's the Airfield Stakes, and it's Boundless Ocean for Kevin Manning and Jim Bolger. He only made his debut on the 14th of October when a neck second at the Curragh, but ran 2 days later at this course in a Group 3 when only beaten 1 1/4 lengths back in 4th. Now that doesn't actually tell the whole story. He arguably should have won. Luke McAteer went for a daring run against the rail and got blocked. This will be his 3rd run in a week, but is a horse with huge ability. He will be suited by this step up in trip to 1 mile and 1 furlong. And yeah, I think he'll prove hard to beat.